So once again, a warm welcome to one and all to our second shopping event of this month, the UK Best of UK Shopping Event Special Webinar, Multi-Channel Selling, How to Incorporate CREOATE into Your Wholesale Business. It's sponsored by CREOATE itself. And I'm your host, myself, Tujo Verghese. I'm the Marketing Manager for CREOATE. And this webinar is co-hosted by my colleague, Growth Marketing Manager of CREOATE, Joao. And those who are new here and don't know what CREOATE is a wholesale marketplace from UK. And we are building products and solutions in unconventional ways so that more entrepreneurs and small business owners can better run their business. And we are helping more and more retailers with the buying sustainable and unique products from brands and wholesalers on a centralized platform using many artificial intelligence and predictive analysis. And we have a wonderful panel of guests here with us from our own community of CREOATE, and also a special one, our own colleague, Anya. So Anya Bacon, our product owner, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everyone. I'm product owner in CREOATE. So I look after the products, the tech aspect of it, and working on all the features to make sure that we have the best experience for you, and working hard to build it on CREOATE.
Thank you, Anya. Over to you, Jack. Husky Home owner Lisa. Why don't you jump on and tell me a bit about your company and yourself?
Hi there, I'm Lisa. Myself and my husband Luke run a Husky Home. It started 3 years ago after a year into research on using sustainable materials that you don't have to add chemicals to again utilize to make reusable products. We launched our first cup in December 2018, and then within a year we'd both given up our full-time job to focus purely on Husky. And we work with a lot of amazing independents across the UK and now across the world. Zero waste stores, refill days, organic stores. And we just love the people that we work with. They all seem to have the same ethos as us. And it's such a passion. It runs through our family as well, rather than just kind of a job.
That's very inspirational. Thank you for joining us today, Lisa.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And over to you next is Jack from Paperplane.
Hi, thanks for having me. Along with my partner Laura, I run Paperplane, and we predominantly sell two things really, and that's greetings cards, and we have an ever-growing range of natural, vegan, plastic-free skincare, bath and body products. We sell through CREOATE and a number of other online places to independent gift stores and some larger chain stores. And we've been going since about 2014. We've got about 500-ish stockists, as well as selling through our own website. So there's a list of some of the stuff we do. We started with cards and then somehow ended up making soap. And I'm not sure how it happened, but I'm glad it did because it's going okay.
We are also very glad that you did. Welcome, Jack.
Thank you.
And over to you, last but not least, Catherine from Resilient Retail Club.
Hi everybody, my name's Catherine Eardley. I'm the founder of the Resilient Retail Club, which is my membership for product businesses. And I'm also a consultant working with product businesses on their sales strategy and profitability. This is my 22nd year in the retail industry. I spent about 18 years in big retailers, managing budgets of up to 400 million, working on sales strategy, profitability, but for the high street. And since 2018, I have worked exclusively with startup and small retailers and brands, really to help them be more resilient. So I'm also very proud to be a Forbes.com contributor on the subject of starting and growing a product business. And I love to speak and write about where the industry is going and all things retail.
That's wonderful. Glad to hear someone in the panel with so much retail experience. I'm pretty sure our audience will be so happy to hear some stories based on that. So let's get started then. Joao, take the show.
Hi guys, yeah, perfect. So let's get started. The first theme of today is motivation. So we're going to be talking about what guided each and every one of you to go ahead with multi-channel with your business. So please, Jack, why don't you start us off and talk about a bit about why did you decide to go multi-channel with Paper Plane?
Yeah, I guess I was trying to think about this and trying to figure if there was ever a conscious decision to go multi-channel, and I don't think it was. I think it's just a sort of evolution of the business and a kind of almost an unavoidable way of doing business in 2022. So we started, as I mentioned earlier, just selling greetings cards and a few prints. And we sort of fell into running a business by accident, having just created a few of those, and we were selling them on not on the high street and Etsy, and just, you know, as a sort of side hustle. And then eventually you start to think, well, you know, these are selling. Maybe if we add more products, they'll sell. So you add more products and they sell okay, some of them, and before you know it, you kind of end up running a business. And it's all a learning curve, and you never really know what you're doing because you sort of, you know, you've fallen into it by accident. That's how we did it. So we very much started online. So that's what we knew in terms of selling stuff, and we'd never really thought about selling wholesale to shops. We'd always just assumed that we would sell online and that would be it. But we started to get a few inquiries from people, and then we realized, so this is back before CREOATE existed and before anything like CREOATE existed, I guess. We hadn't done any trade shows. We didn't really know much about selling wholesale. So we tried to just sort of supply people just through emails, and then we thought, well, maybe we should try and get a website going, and then you kind of have to pay for a second website that's not your retail website because the wholesale pricing is different, and it gets very, very complicated. And then luckily places like CREOATE come along and go, we're not only going to make it easy for you to list all your products in a wholesale format, but we're going to give you a load of customers as well, because we're going to show what you've got to everyone. So I guess it kind of just, it wasn't a decision to go multi-channel as much as an unavoidable, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just, it happened, you know, and I think it probably has to happen to everyone who's trying to sell wholesale. Yeah, so I guess the trade shows, obviously during lockdown when there weren't any trade shows going on, you know, it kind of forced your hand into investing more in your online stuff. But yeah, I mean, that's the world's longest answer, isn't it, to say that I didn't really make a decision. But yeah, I'd be interested to hear what other people say.
No, fantastic, absolutely, Jay. I think it's also about keeping our eyes and ears open all the time, seeing what makes sense, experimenting. And I think when you find an opportunity to test multi-channel, and if it goes well, I think that's how a lot of people started. And if it continues going well, why not, right? So completely, yeah, empathize and absolutely. What do you think, Lisa? How did it go for you?
Very similar to Jack in that kind of it wasn't a decision that we made to jump onto multi-channel. We have done trade shows in the past, and obviously due to COVID, the trade shows and face-to-face meetings were no longer. So we decided to kind of invest more of our time into multi-channel wholesale groups like CREOATE, and CREOATE kind of stood out to us. Obviously you deal with a lot of smaller sort of unique businesses, but also in COVID. So it was myself, my husband, and we had somebody working with us full time. And she used to assist me with a lot of sales and a lot of contacting people. So channels like CREOATE have essentially taken on that job, because we lost her in COVID because we couldn't afford to pay her, and the company now is myself and my husband, so we've each had to take on 50% of her job role at the same time as bringing up 3 children, and it was lockdown as well. So CREOATE's kind of taken on that role as becoming a member of our sales team, you know, getting Husky Home out there to not only our customers, but new customers, and opening up relationships and chat with potential customers. So yeah, we found it very important that way.
Definitely, definitely. What about you, Catherine? What experience do you have seeing the different motivations for brands to go multi-channel with their business?
Well, I think that being multi-channel with your business is a recognition of, well, it's a couple of things. First off, it recognises the way that most people shop these days. So many people will like to look at something in a physical store, and then maybe they'll go onto the retailer's website, or maybe directly back to the brand and check out their website. So most people, we tend to think of physical retail and online retail as 2 completely separate things, but actually they're much more interwoven, really. In most modern buyers' journeys, people may flip between the 2. They may look at something in store, go online, buy something online, have it delivered to a store, or all different ways, combinations of that. I think as well, multi-channel really, there's 2 real strong drivers for retail businesses to become multi-channel. The first one is that the beauty of a product business is that it is scalable. There are lots of other challenges that come with having a product business that, say, service businesses don't have. But one of the things that they do have, I often say that the hardest thing to do is to get a product that somebody really wants to buy. But once you've figured out that product side and you've got that, and you've got a customer who's interested, then you can then replicate that success. If you've got success selling directly to a consumer, it's a pretty good guess that you're going to have success selling it to retailers as well, because you know that the product's strong and that there's a market for it and that people like it. So going multi-channel, selling through multiple sales channels makes a lot of sense, because if you've created something that works, then why not replicate that across a number of different income streams? And then really the second big sort of reason for it, if you like, is that the multiple income streams. We've just talked about the pandemic. So you've got a variety of different things that have happened over the last couple of years. In 2020, people who had bricks and mortar stores only and no online presence had to quickly get an online presence. Those in 2021, perhaps, who were only selling direct to consumer and didn't have a wholesale element to their business, maybe found it a little bit harder than people who already have multiple income streams. So I think one of the best ways to deal with the uncertainty that we keep facing, we like to think all that uncertainty is behind us, but let's face it, it's really not. So one of the best ways to deal with that uncertainty is to have multiple channels, and then you can kind of move between them. If your direct to consumer really takes off, then great. If that's maybe a little bit quieter, you can be focusing more on your wholesale. But I think it's a really smart move in terms of diversifying and sort of spreading your risk, as it were.
Absolutely. I think it goes, we think about risk in many different elements, right? As businesses, and diversifying your channel in terms of seeing what can grow, protecting yourself in these inevitable volatile times, right? Which happen every now and then. I think is definitely something smart that businesses are having to learn how to do well. So absolutely, thank you for sharing. We're just gonna, I think we covered a bit about how you guys started, but is there any specific indications that once you started to measure to know whether you should keep a specific channel or change further or even diversify further? Does anyone want to start sharing?
I'll go on. I'll jump in. No, I mean, just is what was selling and what wasn't selling, I suppose, and noticing that for us at least, what sells on even if even if we were just focusing on our retail websites and the platforms we sell on that are direct to consumer, the customers on each of those platforms are quite different. So one product that might sell really well for us on one platform doesn't sell at all on another, while, you know, a very quiet one on that sells a lot on another. And then on wholesale, it's a completely different thing again. So the majority of the sales we make on our, well, it's not the majority, but say one of our strongest selling products on our retail sites would be some of the prints that we do. We do some A3 and A2 prints. And on a wholesale side, they don't sell at all. It's just not something that is easy to display in a store. It's just not something that sells. So I think trying out the different places to sell stops you from cancelling what you may have previously thought was just a product that just wasn't going to sell, because it's possible you just haven't found the audience for it. So I think that's probably, as well as the, you know, finding out that when you're very quiet, like at the moment, we're very, very quiet on our retail sites, but wholesale's doing okay. And that's just a seasonal thing. I think at this time of year, our retail always goes very quiet because it's sort of between gifting occasions and whatever. So as well as having those multi-channels helping out when one's busy, when one's quiet, it also helps where one product you do isn't selling on one, but it is on another. So it's definitely worth trying the same product across different platforms and finding where it sells.
Absolutely. I think we've all gone through that phase of deciding whether to keep a specific channel or moving to another. And sometimes it's just about persistence. It's timing as well. Some things are outside of our control like that. That's why the diversification sometimes works. Thank you, Jack, for sharing that. Yeah, I was just thinking, Catherine, based on what Jack said, are there any other elements that you see businesses sometimes do right or wrong when it comes to deciding to keep or start a new channel?
Well, I think that I always say that the kind of the two most finite resources for small businesses are your time and your money. So I think that when it comes to multiple channels, I mean, there's one theory. Some people would say, actually, you should be on every single channel that you could possibly be on, because then you're just going to get in front of the highest number of people. But I think that theory doesn't really recognize the work that goes into nurturing your channels, and you know, you could just be everywhere, but the time and effort that it would go into getting that set up, for example, would be detrimental. So I think that, yes, good to have a multi-channel approach, but to be discerning, to choose carefully where you go, where you sit. Obviously, if you know that your customers are there, then absolutely that's the channel that you want to go to. But sometimes you don't know that right off the bat. Sometimes you have to have a little bit of trial and error. So I'd say that when people, mistakes people make, I think sometimes just people get a little over ambitious and sometimes people will be over ambitious and try and be everywhere, which is very difficult. And sometimes they're just too scared to even try. So I think for me, it's about just taking a realistic look, looking at the other brands that are sold through a particular channel is always a good indicator, because especially in a wholesale channel, like you can imagine, like the kind of store that I want to stock me also stock these other brands, and if the answer is yes and it seems like it's a good fit, then why not try it? So I think it's having the sort of courage, if you like, to try, but then not overcommitting yourself either, and recognizing that time and effort and energy is a valuable resource as well.
Absolutely. No, fantastic points. And it's definitely true. Like, people think that being in every channel sometimes is also the best move. It depends. Sometimes it takes a lot of time to do specific marketing for every channel, specific design for every channel. And like Jack mentioned as well, some products are not fit for some channels. So yeah, know your strengths and decide maybe from there. Fantastic points, guys. Thank you. Now we're just moving towards our second theme. TJ, would you like to go ahead?
Yes, absolutely. Well, in multi-channel selling, some of the definite things that we need are the tools and the techs, and the right use of these techs and tools. And we will have some insider insights on this from our own Anya. So, Anya, why would you say like the resources and tools that we create for our community and how it's going to be beneficial for our community of retailers and wholesalers, and like which resources and tools were essential for them and what were the reasons that you figured out when creating these tools?
I think for us, the main resources which are important is to give you guys visibility. I think you put a lot of trust in us to conduct business through us. So everything we do is to make sure we continue to find ways that if we see any issues, we resolve it. And so for us, as much as resources and tools which are, we always strive to, find something which is more interesting for you. For example, the CRM tools where you are able to talk to retailers. That's great. That's hopefully is something that you look for. But also what's important for us is how do we gain trust in the most basic ways? And that's what we really try to focus as much as possible. We earn trust how we on all the payments and all the other systems. That's what's any financial communication we have with you. That's also super important for us.
Fantastic. Yes, and yeah, and to have like a insight from one of our community member, Lisa, how did one of our tools drive your business in some way? Could you explain how you are in practical effectively using it, or one of the tools that you would recommend for our community?
Yeah, absolutely. The tools definitely, like Anya just suggested, like talking to your customers. So for us, we've always dealt with very small businesses, a lot of family businesses, independent retailers, and I think it is the communication. For me, it is the key. We build ourselves and thrive on personal relationships. We like to deal with people that are selling our product, not kind of like large retailers. So definitely having the resource to communicate with our customers has been really, really key.
Yes, definitely. And modern customers have modern expectations, and you have to meet up to their standards, and well, you have to change up the traditional ways of communication as well, right? And
Absolutely.
Catherine, with retail industry expert, might be able to add something to that.
Well, I think, kind of going back to the theme about time, time and money being such crucial resources, I think that really any tools that help you be more efficient, bring that efficiency to what you're doing, then that's really crucial, especially if you are, Lisa was talking about how it's Lisa and her husband running the business. It's a small team, right? So you've got to, if you're juggling lots of different channels, then really all of those tools and resources have to be around helping me, I hope I'm right, Lisa, and making it efficient, right? Making it manageable.
And then you can leverage that.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And Jack, do you have any final points to add to these?
No, I mean, I think that's pretty much as Lisa and Catherine has said there. We had tried at one time using sales agents, and it just didn't ever work out for us. And I think probably for a lot of similar businesses to us that aren't set up for that. The tools that come with a site like CREOATE just take the place of that sales agent. And it's, it puts our buyers tend to be small gift shops, and it's one or two people running that gift shop, and they want to do the buying themselves, but they're running the shops. They don't want a sales agent turning up in the middle of the day, disrupting them while they're trying to actually make sales or organize the shop or whatever. So from their point of view, having a website where they can browse at their leisure and find a huge range of stuff, and also directly contact the people who are selling that, I think that must be just a game changer for them, and it certainly has been for us.
Absolutely, yes. It fits to the job, and like rather than being a very extravagant tool, making it like just make sure that it is doing it purpose. That's more essential in terms of practicality? Like you said, so many of them are like small scale business, and so glad some of our tools are also helping you guys out. So let's move on to the next one. So where did CREOATE fit into this plan? Like how has it helped your cost channel? I think we covered a bit of it, but in order to ask, like, what tool did you think is actually you leverage the most, or you think is actually something that you could actually recommend to the upcomers? Any takers? Let's get some insight from Anya. Anya, what tool would you recommend to our community? Oops, I think you're muted.
Apologies, I've managed to lose the button. Yeah, so as I said previously, we mentioned the CRM tool is something that I would say it's not so recent that we've done it, but what we've really advise customers to do is to reach out to your communities. You're able to send emails to all your followers or everyone who has purchased anything from you in the past, and notify them on anything new that you have in a shop. They receive it straight to their email box, and that way you're able to highlight your best sellers. You also have a couple of products at the bottom which are dropped from your catalog, so they instantly are able to see it as they receive the email. So I really recommend that. We see great results and feedback. So that's number one that I would advise.
Thank you, Anya. And those who are unaware about these tools, don't worry, we will be sure to pin them to our description once we upload this video, and you can go check it out. And yes, so next, Joao would be taking the next section of this meet. Joao.
Thanks, Tijo. No, the fantastic discussion around tools. We know they're the backbone for any success we have in multi-channel selling, for sure. Making sure that you have the right tools allows you to be quicker, to be more efficient. So, no, thank you for that. Now, next theme we're going to discuss is the mindset. Multi-channel, as we discussed a bit, can be very daunting. There's a lot to do at the same time. So it'd be great just to talk about the mindsets that entrepreneurs like yourselves in the panel need. So would you like to start, Jack? Would you like to give some window into how do you prepare yourself to make sure that you can deal with all the requirements needed to do multi-channel selling successfully, and also in general to run Paper Plane? How do you prepare yourself? How do you keep yourself in check and keep the stress at bay? We know it's a challenge for all of us.
I wish I knew. Well, I mean, we're kind of, I'd say, well, up until a year or so ago, I'd say we're very much a seasonal business. So because we were predominantly dealing direct to consumers, we would do something like 50% of all of our annual turnover would be in November and December. So while that's still a crazy busy time for us, increasing our wholesale offering through channels like CREOATE has definitely leveled it out a bit, which is great because it means we're busier at the quiet months and still crazy busy at the busy time. In terms of preparing for that and dealing with the stress, I can't really speak for dealing with the stress because everyone's very different and everyone does that in their own way. And sometimes it's okay to just feel the stress and be burnt out by it and accept that that's just part of how it is. And because everyone's susceptible to it. The hardest thing to do from my point of view in managing different channels is keeping on top of stock. I've spoken to various people over the years about any kind of stock control software, and it all gets very complicated. It sounds very expensive. So at the moment, and they don't all seem to plug into every single platform as well. I haven't found any way without having something extremely expensive of every time we get a sale on any of the, off the top of my head, 10 different platforms that we sell on, for that all to get pulled into one resource where it, knows exactly how much stock is going in and going out. So it's very much in our heads. We've got our stock fairly well organized within the studio and our storage space. And because we're here every day dealing with it, we kind of keep on top of it and make sure we've always, in theory, always got enough stock in. You will get caught out sometimes, but yeah, I think just because there isn't a very simple way of automating it that I'm aware of, or it's certainly not a cheap way of automating it, I think it's very important to come up with a system that works for you, because the worst thing that can happen is if you lose an order because you haven't got the stock in and they need it next week or whatever. So yeah, that's my only pearl of wisdom.
Wow, that sounds very, very challenging. It's interesting insight for us all to understand all the intricacies that go into managing stock and everything. Fascinating. Lisa, what about you? How do you manage the challenges of multi-channel selling and in general of running Husky Home and making sure that you're delivering the value to your customers that you hope for?
To-do lists, definitely. I have a to-do list for everything, and if I don't, my whole life goes to just a big shambles. So I have a personal to-do list for the channels, but just to kind of check in on yourself. Like, I find that, taking some time away from the business sometimes, the family, just getting outdoors really, really helps me personally, mentally. But checking in with our customers as well. So our end users, we often do little local markets of a weekend with all of our products, all of our range, and we speak to the actual person who buys our end product. That really helps to kind of ground us, to find out who we're selling to, why, and then chat to the retailers online, kind of communicate with them. So communication and to-do lists, they're definitely my key.
Classics. You can't go wrong with those. Any specific tool you use for to-do lists, or you go with pen and pencil?
Pen and paper is my absolute favorite. Although I've been trying to get into Trello, which...
Yeah, absolutely.
Trello.
Yeah, one of my friends kind of recommended it. I need to learn about it. So you can apparently create like a personal one for different tasks. So I could create a CREOATE one, and then I could then share it with my husband and then not share certain lists. And yes, I'd like to I've just started using that, and I'm really liking it because I've always got my phone on me, like any business user, like right on it. But yeah, so I can have it all in the one place. And you can like highlight in different colors. I do need to learn how to do it. It looks really, really cool. But yes,
Fantastic. No, yeah, there's so much customization. Highly recommend to our audience. Fantastic tool. We use it here at CREOATE as well. Highly recommend. What about you, Catherine? Any when you're working with brands, how do you look at the mental aspect of doing multi-channel selling well, and in general, how to organize their teams and stuff like that?
I think the key thing with a business that has a wholesale and a direct consumer element is that you have to get your head around the different rhythms. And I think Jack made a really good point there about the fact that if you've got a wholesale element and a direct consumer, then not only does it help you slightly, not completely even out your workflow, but throughout the year, but it takes some of the pressure off that big Christmas push. But you also at the same time have to be ready at different points. So when your retailers want to see, for example, your spring occasion cards, you want to see Mother's Day, they might want to see Valentine's Day, pretty much. They might even want to see Valentine's Day before, well before Christmas, depends how organised they are. So I do think then you've got different rhythms. You've got your wholesale rhythms and you've got your direct consumer rhythms. So one of the things that I often work with people on is simple calendar, trading calendar that we're looking at 12 to 18 months at a time, and then you can actually see, right, these are my wholesale launches, particularly on things like cards, which are so seasonal. But you know, if you have collections you're launching at certain points, so then that way you can not only sort of plan your workflow. I find often when people feel overwhelmed, one of the things that really helps is elongating timescales. So I come from a big retail background, and they're working, you know, they're probably already working on Christmas 2023, you know, to an extent. Somebody is in a retailer, you know, like they're thinking about the designs or they're getting inspiration, you know, they're always on a much longer lead time than small businesses tend to be. So I think often zooming out, looking at it from that 12 to 18 month perspective, actually planning through when your workflow is going to come. So again, if you're a business that has a really heavy spring wholesale demands, plus, but you've also got Christmas direct to consumer, then you often have to design your spring 2023 now, for example, so that you're not caught out later when you need you know, or maybe you design the sort of bulk of it and have a few sort of more responsive designs a bit closer to the time. So I think simple organizations, big part of it, planning it out. To-do lists, big fan of to-do lists, but then I think as well, just I think Lisa made a really good point about getting some time away from the business. I often think if you spend time with people who don't have small businesses, it's actually really reassuring. That I often find that, you know, if you can get very much into that sort of small business mindset and the bubble, and you're just like constantly thinking about things, and then you'll go and talk to, you know, your friends and loved ones, and they may not even ask you about what's going on. And it's so refreshing in a way to realize that your business is only actually part of you, and there's so many other different things. It can feel like life or death when you're really in the weeds. But I thought it was an interesting point that Jack brought up about stock, because that's one of my specialty areas. I work with a lot of people on their stock, and I completely agree with you, Jack. It is a really, really difficult one to do. I think, you know, you can maintain spreadsheets, but then you've got to keep pulling all the sales data in. And yeah, I do agree. I often get asked, like, what's the best solution for managing stock across multiple channels? And it's really, really tricky. There are some, but they are quite expensive. And it's when you've got that many different channels, it's managing it is a bit of a headache. So I hear you on that. I think, yeah, as I said, as much organisation as you can do, but then also looking after yourself and making sure that you don't run yourself completely ragged, because it can be easy to do when you've got a small business. Sorry, that was a very long answer.
No, it's fantastic. Great perspectives. I think it is true. It's very challenging to deal with the internal challenges from the stress point of view and everything. We need to keep doing trial and error to find out. In terms of tools, yeah, it's we need to do what we can with the tools that are available at the time, and it's unfortunate that these elements of multi-channel selling are still not yet solved for a solution that's affordable for all of us, especially in the independent commerce business. So very interesting insight, Catherine. Thank you so much. I think we covered a bit of the biggest challenges. Maybe just like nowadays with all the changes going on, and from the insights that we got from the panel, Lisa, Jack, is there anything you're planning on doing differently, perhaps, or anything that specific lessons that you've learned that have changed the ways you do business?
Should I go? Okay. Yes and no, I suppose. Nothing major that comes to mind, but I think we're doing it almost every day, if that doesn't sound too cheesy. Because the only way, Laura and myself both came into this from a completely non-retail or product background or anything like that. So everything we've done, we've just had to learn as we go along. Either through trial and error ourselves or advice from other people who have small creative businesses. So I think you kind of, as you go along, you spend money on things, and sometimes you think, oh, I really wish I hadn't just spent that much money on that thing, which is now sitting in a corner gathering dust, that piece of machinery that I thought was going to change everything, and actually we should probably sell. But sometimes you take a punt on something and it does really well, and you think, well, that's just the game that we're in. I think is that you have to always look to try new things and be prepared for them not to work, and don't be too down if they don't work, because the next thing might work. So I guess it's just a I thought, well, it's a specific really that because we've thought about how some of our products sell really well to shops, but they don't seem to sell well online for us direct to consumer. We've started thinking, well, what if we had our own shop? Because then we'd be making a bigger profit on those things. So instead of selling them to other shops at wholesale prices, we'd be selling them in a shop at retail price. So surely that would work. So we're now that didn't make any sense. Maybe that did make sense. But we're looking at turning part of our old studio into a shop, so that we can sell direct to consumer ourselves the things that we know other shops are able to sell to consumers, but currently we're struggling to sell to consumers, if that makes sense. I hope it does.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. What about you, Lisa? Anything to add?
Yeah, same with Husky Home. No kind of major challenges apart from the obvious COVID for everybody. But what would we do differently today? We've recently introduced sustainable coconut shell candles, and that's something we kind of fell into. A lot of the coconut bowls we have delivered from the farmers that we work with in Vietnam were coming quite small because they're natural. You can't kind of, foresee what you're going to get. And a lot of the retailers are saying, well, these are not big enough for cereals, but we didn't want to send them back. So we're like, how can we use these instead? So, and I've always been trying to think of getting a little hobby on the side, a bit of time away from the business. So I started learning candle making just from ourselves and for giving its gifts to friends and family. And we put it on our stories on Husky Home, and a couple of retailers were like, wow, when are you going to have these candles for wholesale? We just hadn't thought about it. And now we've gone from having one fragrance to about to introduce the fourth, and they're absolutely flying for us. They're going really, really well. So I kind of wish we'd done something like that sooner, but like Jack said, you don't know what's going to do well and when it's going to do well. So yeah, and we enjoy it as well. Of an evening, we'll be at home and making candles, and Luke will get a text from the boys saying, "Are you coming to the pub?" And he's like, "No, I'm going to make candles," and they get a few giggles from that. But yeah, so I would have definitely tried to start something like that earlier.
Wow, what a story! Amazing. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's a dream scenario. Incredible. No, thank you guys. Incredible insights from everyone. Now we're just gonna chat a bit about our community and some advice that you might have, some final advice you might have for the members of the audience. So, Tijo, why don't you take it away?
So every one of you have said some inspirational story, and you guys have reached this success definitely through some hardships, and there are so many newcomers who are there at the crossroad, how to start their multi-channel selling. And I think at this moment, so many of the customers are very educated. They research a lot about making a purchase, and there's so many opportunities and options to diversify their selling channels. So, and I heard from you guys creating a mindset of to-do list, stocking out, and organization. So what were some of the best examples you could give to these newcomers in terms of entering into this multi-channel strategy? Where should they start from? And can you share some of your wisdom from personal experience, starting with you, Jack?
Yeah, how to start? I would say if you can, if there's a channel you're interested in selling on, look at the other brands that are on it and see if they fit with yours. I can think of one. There was one wholesale platform that kept reaching out to us, and I took a look to see what was on there, and it just didn't. It just did not feel like a right fit for us. I can't quite explain why, but just I couldn't see our products on there. And then I think we found CREOATE, and I looked at who was on there, and I recognised some of the brands, and I was aware that some of our stockists also bought those brands. So that felt very much like a no-brainer to me. And also, you know, if you've got existing customers, retail customers, as in shops, through other platforms, then speak to them and ask them where they buy, because they're your customers, and they are going to be buying brands similar to yours from other places. So if you can find out from them which channels they enjoy using and that they trust, then that's probably a good way to find out where's the right place for you.
That's a very good advice. Reach out and get to know your customers and manage their necessary needs. And that's a good start. And what advice would you give, Lisa?
Same as Jack, kind of like, yeah, be led by your customers, listen to your customers. We were exactly the same. There was a channel that reached out to us, and we looked on their homepage, and some of the products they were selling, I can't even explain, it was just horrendous. And I was like, no, definitely not for us. You have to fit in with the other brands that are selling on there and the retailers that are buying from you. And like Catherine mentioned earlier, don't dilute yourself. Don't, as a brand, go and jump on every single platform out there. It's not going to work. Like, fully concentrate on where you are and kind of build the relationships, build your brand there. Yeah, really don't dilute yourself. It's not going to work.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And when you're embarking on such a journey, so for those new upcomers, make sure, like, you know, analyze your market as well as your customers, and, you know, rather than going out diversifying on all trips, just make sure you know the path you're taking is the right one and the correct one, and then focus more on that, double down on that. And while your retail journey, Catherine, what kind of strategy did you focus on, and what advice would you share with our audience?
The most important thing to do really before you start selling on any channel is run your numbers. So be really clear about it, really clear about, for every product that you sell, are you going to make money? Especially at wholesale, because it's a very different price, as we know, from selling direct to consumer. So I think that it's very, very important to make sure that you've got the margin in your products to sell via wholesale before you kind of go down that route. And also to work out, even if you can't wholesale everything, what can you? So I have clients who have hundreds of, maybe 100 products on their website, and they wholesale 6 because those 6 are the ones that they can produce in enough quantity. They're the ones that they get a decent margin on, that they can make product, you know, they can produce basically at the right price. So know your products, know your numbers, run your margins, really just get clear about the fundamentals about whether or not you're going to make money, because the worst thing to do is put a lot of time and effort into something and you know, make all these contacts, or you know, it's not about top line sales growth, it's about the bottom line. So make sure that you're really focusing in on that before you go too far.
Yes, definitely. And there we have it. Everything you need to know. Not everything, but definitely some very valuable lessons in order to change your structure and how to multi-channel sell and how you can approach it as a wholesaler. And so let's see if we have any questions from our audience. Unfortunately, there's no open questions. Well, those who are hesitant to write it over here, don't worry, you can reach to us through our email, and we will be providing them over here. And I think it's important when deciding if your business is ready to take on a challenge like this multi-channel selling, it's very necessary to know your audience, find the appropriate company and all. And the advices that were given by Paper Plane and Husky Home and Resilient Retail Club, I think it's very valuable how to know how to allocate the resources and stock up, and having an organizational structure And a proper infrastructure and tools in place is definitely going to manage an increased effective method of multi-channel selling. And I want to once again thank all our wonderful panelists and our co-host, especially Jack, Lisa, Catherine. Once again, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for joining this webinar. And we hope everyone who watched this video really finds something helpful today. And until next time, keep shopping on CREOATE. And tomorrow is the last day of our Best of UK shopping event. So make sure to shop. We have some exclusive discounts in these days. So make sure to shop there. Until next time, we'll see you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.